In this video, I'm gonna talk about Axiom Verge 2. This game is not Super Metroid. The first game was like Super Metroid in a bunch of ways, and that was fair, and great, and good, and amazing for all of the right reasons. The sequel is not Super Metroid. It has become its own thing. Axiom Verge 1 was really Axiom Verge 0. Axiom Verge 2 is where the proverbial flower blossoms into its full form. I don't have any articles on hand as part of my hard evidence, but I heard from the rumor mill that the initial reception to the sequel had been at room temperature. Somehow, it hadn't had the sheer impact of the first one. And it was puzzling, because normally sequels either do even better than the first, and they become the gold standard, or they bomb spectacularly and become disowned by everyone involved. This one, it's as if it got left on red. I'd been bracing myself for total disappointment. I figured I ought to just get in there and get it done once and for all because there's already enough agony in my life, and putting one of its sources to bed should be a good move to earn myself some peace of mind. After all, video games are serious business, and they contain life-changing material if my high school report cards are any indication. And you know what? I didn't run into any disappointment. It just felt different. It felt like I wasn't playing an homage to some other franchise. It felt like I was always discovering a little more with every little square that I filled in on the minimap. It felt like I was partaking into something unique. There was no Metroid. There was no Castlevania. There definitely wasn't any Wonder Boy, and any other inspiration there could have been, I couldn't identify it. I'm thinking out loud here, but I entertained the thought that people as a whole expected the games to be character-driven, and this turned out not to be the case. The first installment got us used to the lab coat guy with the poofy hair, and then it turned out he wasn't the main character of the franchise. The Indian girl in the second installment is not the main character either. Like Dahlgren, the city book, the main character is the world itself, and the people who try to make sense of that world are the lens through which it is viewed and interpreted. And when it's presented that way, the pieces fall into place as if they always belonged. This here part of the world will get explored and mapped out and driven to 100% in roughly 15 hours of gameplay. And then it'll get packed away into a corner, and the next title, and the next, will explore a different part, and it'll have different people, and they'll have different reactions and their own ways to deal with what's shaping up to be a multiversal crisis that would make the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe feel small. There's a little string connecting all of these parts. There are references and documents, pointers to familiar things, sigils that come up in unexpected places, plots that thicken. We never get to see the full picture. We are small people caught in something that is bigger than we are. But we'll be damned if we don't do something about it. Controls involve a jump button, melee button, ranged attack button, utility button, stand still button, for precise aiming of course, minimap button, a special item selector, and a special item activation. Mostly familiar, with a few special twists along the way, and players of the previous title will recognize a few mechanics making a return. Backtracking and item hunting is a staple of the genre, and it applies here much more than most. A lot of time is going to be spent simply trying to figure out where to go next, because the way onwards isn't always obvious. If that's not enough, you'll be happy to know that the map has a two-layer thing going on, and part of navigating around involves jumping between layers in order to get past obstacles that seem impossible. On second thought, I lied. This part really reminds me of Super Metroid. For those people who had all the trouble in the world finding the ice beam, apply this to the overwhelming majority of the game. You'll want to use the marker tool on your minimap with a vengeance, and even write down map coordinates and a description of what blocks your way on a piece of paper. Otherwise, you'll just come back to your problem spots over and over, and realize that you still can't get past that obstacle yet. I don't think that's a cheat or a spoiler. It's just a few words from somebody who would have done things differently if he had known. Nothing too world-changing here. Just a reminder that even when modern video games have a mini-map and a bunch of instructions and tutorials baked into the gameplay itself, there's nothing keeping us from calling upon the good old paper and pencil sometimes. Then again, maybe don't take notes. Practice your memory. Give yourself excuses to admire the scenery, and listen to an entire musical album of atmospheric guitar and flutes and piano and chants, and all wrapped up in a synthesizer to produce what has got to be the most compelling Indo-Arabian style music I've heard in my life. The previous game was all in your face with its music, but this one relies on sneak attacks. You stop playing, and several hours later, you're catching yourself humming the soundtrack without even thinking about it. The end almost seems to come too soon. I could have taken twice more of all of this. I guess that's a good sign. All good things come to an end. And if this good thing comes to an end, then I can't wait until the next good thing gets started. More places to go, more things to find, more lore to unravel. And this has got to keep happening until the entire genre gets renamed into Vergetroidvania. I don't care if that's a mouthful. It's earning its place in there with a whole lot of flying colors. If there's something being done well here, it's that of giving a sense of otherness into everything. I'm not just playing a character in a strange land. I'm using strange mechanics. I'm finding strange tools. I get to apply my new abilities in strange ways. I get to experience a venture that is completely alien compared to everything I've seen before. The real tour de force is presenting it in a way that I can ease into it. I can start by latching on to my familiar bearings, take baby steps into ever deeper foreign territory, and before I have any idea what happened, I'm ravenously consuming it all. In short, this game is a knife, a fork, and an authentic succulent Chinese meal.